have the books behind me. So we're just gonna stack them on the floor and hope for the best. Whew, water break. Also, look at my silly goose keychain. It's pretty cute. Anyways, hi, hello, welcome. My name is Phia. This is my first booktube video. Hi, welcome. You're new here. I'm new here. Wow, we're already connecting. I'm gonna be doing an end of the year book tag, just basically wrapping up my first year as a reader and the books that I read this year. I'm gonna be following the questions that I think everyone else is doing. Off the top of my head, Larry does it, Des does it. So yeah. Anyways, the first question is, most disappointing book of the year. Y'all are actually going to scream, and please don't blame me. Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. Okay, don't get me wrong, I loved Better Than the Movies, heart, soul, mind, and body, but Nothing Like the Movies was such a disappointing read for me, which says a lot because I love Wes and Liz as characters, but this book didn't feel the same. Like, Better Than the Movies encapsulated like perfect 2000 rom-com movie vibes. Like, you got the romance movie nostalgic references in there, and growing up as like a hopeless romantic, I got every single one of those references, right? I just felt like there's such a big disconnect. What is this? The first few chapters, I was like, who are these people? Wes, Liz, is that you? I got such big whiplash that I had to double check that I was reading the correct book, you know? I was so disappointed. There's a time skip in this, which is kind of like a mild spoiler, and it just felt so disconnected. The people that we left off with are not the same as the people that we meet again, and a lot of that change in the characters, it happens off page. So we're just told that these two characters are like this now. Like, this is their personality now, and I'm like, I'm in denial. I refuse to accept. And I just feel like that disconnect didn't do it for me. I actually rated this book a 2.5 star, which is what? Mind-blowing, right? Anyways, the next question is, what was an underdog book? I have my computer here, so it's not like I'm just looking at the wall. So, my underdog book of the year, you actually won't have heard of this, I can guarantee. Letters to the Lost Duology by Bridget Kemmerer. I hate that I didn't read this sooner. I love Divine Rivals, and if you loved Divine Rivals, imagine that, but like in a modern AU contemporary setting, especially Letters to the Lost. I like this more than We Can Tell. There are two standalone books. You can read it separately, but they kind of follow two people who are in the same friendship group. So Rev and Declan, they're both guys and they're both friends and they both have their own love story. It's just wow. These two books, I actually consumed it all in one sitting. I remember starting and finishing this book in one day. I remember starting and finishing this book in one day. Like, I could not recommend these two books enough. I found this through Sunny Kim, one of my favorite YouTubers on booktube. Thank goodness she did not gatekeep because I would not have found these treasures. The relationship in this and the two main characters and how they grow kind of is reminiscent of like Studio Ghibli vibes, where these two independent characters work through their problems and they kind of lean on each other. They don't depend on each other, but they kind of influence each other to be better people. And I think that's like so genuine and so authentic. And for a teenage romance, excuse me, Bridget Kemmerer. She knew what she was doing. It's a really good read, emotional, deep. I was still at the edge of my seat in the last 5 chapters. I actually was like concerned that we might not get a happy ending. I was still gripped at the last 5 chapters for both books. You read this one first and then you read this one next, more than we can tell. But both books are really, really good. Like, I highly, highly recommend it. A lot of people are off-put by reading about teenagers who complain and whine and blame the world for their sufferings, but like this, actually, bearable teenagers. Really good character development. I'm gonna put that away now, or else I'm gonna keep yapping about that. Okay, the next question is, what was an overhyped book you read? Okay, so I might get flamed. Powerless by Elsie Silver. Oh, let me say first that I like what the Chestnut Spring series is to romance readers. It's like the iconic cowboy romance. Like, if someone asks you for a good cowboy romance recommendation, the first thing people would think of is the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. There are a bunch of interconnected standalones, so you can read anyone. You can pick up any book in the series, but it just follows the family of... I can't remember. Anyways, it follows a family, right? The brothers. Yeah, anyways, this Powerless was like the most hyped up book for me, at least within my circle of book friends on Instagram and what I see online. I felt like Powerless was like everyone's coveted favorite. So when I picked up this book, I kind of had really high expectations, but then I read it and I was like, oh, I don't know, I didn't like it as much. I think that this is overhyped, and my actual favorite, which is Heartless by Elsie Silver, is actually like appropriately hyped. Maybe I think it's because this is like, it mixes hockey romance and it mixes cowboy romances. Maybe that's why it was really hyped up. But I don't know, like I enjoyed it. Like I didn't hate it. I didn't love it as much as the entire book community. So that I think is an overhyped book that I read. I also read Powerless by Lauren Roberts, which I have. Okay, so I got this book. I think this is a pretty overhyped book just because it has a lot of really similar themes to previously written books. So I read Red Queen this year as well. And I actually read Powerless first and then Red Queen. And then when I read Red Queen, I was like, wow, this is so similar. Like, hold on a second. You know, it was really, really similar, and it kind of ruined the reading experience for me. And apparently it's really similar to like the Hunger Games as well, and I can kind of see that. I don't know, it was kind of overhyped. Those are my two overhyped books that I can think of at the top of my head. So the next question is a book that surprised you. How to End a Love Story by Yulin Kwong. Yes. Okay, I picked this up for the same reason that everybody picked it up. So Yulin Kwong, the author of this book, is going to be adapting one of Emily Henry's books into a movie. And I was really, really, really scared of picking this up because just in case I hate it, I'm probably not gonna like the movie. Like, I don't know, like there's some logic, right? Like, it was like 1 + 1 = 2 logic in my head, which made me really scared to pick this up. But like look at the tabs and tell me if I liked it or not. Yeah, I liked it. This gave me the same feeling as I would have if I read like an Abby Jimenez book or like an Emily Henry book, which I think is really good because that means that their styles are similar, but they're not so similar that you wouldn't be able to differentiate. Like, I feel like Yulin Kwong has such a unique voice when she's telling the story. I actually hated the main female character, like in the first few chapters. I just think that she was so unbearable. I literally wrote that I could not empathize with her and that I was almost going to drop this because of how unrational she was. But then I kept reading and then it surprised me because I ended up flying through the rest of the book at like a record-breaking speed. The way this book looks at relationships, love, trauma, and how a person's history could affect prejudices, stereotypes, etc., etc. I can't recommend this book enough. Like, I actually really, really like this book. In the words of Tessa Bailey at the very end, emotional, relatable, and binge-worthy. So that is my surprising book of the year. The next question is your favorite book couple or couples of the year. This is literally the most easiest question because this series consumed my entire being. It's The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. Let me try and convince you to read this, right? This series follows 4 different female characters, and each book kind of is like their own book or like their perspective, but it's all part of one underlying interconnected plotline. And so therefore you actually do have to read this series in order. But I tell you, the couples in this book, they live rent-free in my mind. Apart from the couples in this series, the found family in this, you know when you read a book and you like read something funny, but all you do is just like that, right? You laugh, but you don't really laugh. This book, when I read something funny, I laughed. Like, I laughed with a capital L. This series is so fun. The couples in this, they were pretty well built because it's not like the end of one book, like they're together. Because it's an interwoven plotline, a lot of the build-up actually happens in the final book, which is shaped like a brick and could kill someone. This series has all the tropes you can think of. The childhood friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, reluctant allies to lovers. The slow burn has the pining, it has the good banter. The angst, it's romance subplot, by the way, set in a neo-futuristic Asia. Next question is your favorite main characters of the year. I don't know what consumed me during the year, but I actually tried to go through Sarah J. Maas's entire backlog of series. So I read the ACOTAR series, I read the Throne of Glass series, and I'm making my way through the Crescent City series. And a lot of my main favorite characters actually are written by Sarah J. Maas. I like Selena. I like Dorian. Dorian has my heart, my soul. And contrary to popular belief, I do like Hale as a character. I don't know why he gets so much hate. And then in the Akatar series, I love Lucian. Like, Sarah J. Maas has so much opportunity to play around with his character and the complexities of his character. I also really like Nesta, even though people are like, it's a hit or miss for her. I like Farah, Race, Rysand. My standards in Med have increased because of that man. I just like a lot of the main characters that Sarah J. Maas has written. I'm not gonna say my other Throne of Glass character favorites just cause they're kind of spoilers, but if you know, you know. If you know, you know. The next question is an author that didn't work out for you this year. It's like when you go to like a help group and you're like, hi, my name's Phia, and my author that I didn't like this year is... I tried to be a Lauren Asher girly. I really tried. I really tried. But something about her writing just didn't click for me. Something about her characters didn't click for me. The banter didn't click for me. Like, I had to force read at least 80% of this book. I read this fairly early on in the year, and at the start of the year, I was really avoiding DNFing books. I wanted to give all the books I read a chance. So I read this, didn't like it. I tried to read Terms and Condition, didn't even finish it. I tried to read the third book, didn't finish it. So then it kind of was like a 3-book rule, 3 strikes and you're out rule. So I was like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna like her other stories. So she's like an author that didn't work out for me this year. Maybe in the future, who knows, I might pick up a book of hers again. But for now, she is pretty low on my to-read list. The next question is, what is the happiest book you read this year? So this is pretty easy as well. If you like... Oh my gosh, I'm sweating. Also, the fact that it's summer in Australia and the windows are like blazing. Anyways, this is one of my happiest reads this year. It's called Dungeons and Drama by Christy Boyce, and I just think it's a fun time. I really think it's 200 pages of pure bliss. You know, it's really low stakes. It's rom-com. Think better than the movies. If Better Than the Movies didn't have the subplot of Liz and her mom and her grief and trauma, if that wasn't in it, like this is that. This is so cute. This is like a Nickelodeon episode of like Victorious. Like it's quick, it's funny, it's lighthearted, it's fake dating, by the way, and majority of the plot happens in a board game store, and I love board games. It's like my other hyperfixation other than books. So if you like board games, if you like musical theater, it makes so many references. Like, I just think it's such a fun book, and it's so good because I think the author actually wrote this book inspired by her actual real life love story. So she met her partner through a D&D game, and I think that just made this book just so much genuine. Like, I just think it's just so fun. Like, I don't have anything bad to say about it. The next question is, what was the saddest book you read this year? Now, a lot of people might think A Little Life, but I tried to read A Little Life. I got through half of the first page, and then I was like, maybe not. So my saddest books that I read this year was Saving 6 and Redeeming 6 by Chloe Walsh, which is books 3 and 4 of the Boys of Tommen series. I think after I finished Redeeming 6, I had to put it down and like think about life. After finishing Saving 6, I had to put it down and think about my life. I just think that there were so many moments in these 2 books where the themes that they covered were just so heavy. A majority of the books that I read, you see characters improving over time. That's the whole point, right? Like, you've got the character arc going along. But these 2 books, you kind of see the main male character just deteriorate. Like, I love Joey. I really wanted what was best for him. But you kind of see him deteriorate between these 2 books, and it was just so sad. I don't think I can recommend these 2 books enough. Like, I know I say that about these other 2 series, but yeah, I was hesitant to start the Boys of Tommen series, actually, because like, oh my gosh, 800 pages on a high school romance. What could you possibly say, Miss Chloe Walsh? But I like these 2 books better than the first 2 books, which is Binding 13 and Keeping 13, which might not be a popular opinion, but I really like these 2 books. They're just really done well. Like, there's so much angst. Like, I cried multiple chapters. Like, you just feel all the emotional burden, like, after you read it. Like, Anyways, next question is, what is the most frustrating book you read this year? Can we just talk about Wattpad books getting adapted into traditionally published books? Because, oh my gosh, I hate read this. Like, it's like a different level of DNF. Like, I hate read this. Like, I read this out of spite. I don't know why this book is a book, and if you love this book, respect to you, but you're stronger than me. You're really stronger than me. My entire book review is just me complaining about why this book is a book. There's shallow characters, the miscommunication trope was not done well. There was just so many things that I was reading and I was like, where is she going with this? The plot was like barely there, 60% smut. Although I do appreciate smut and what it can do for the plotline and the characters, this was smut just for the sake of smut. 60%, like 60, maybe even 70%. I don't know, like an absurd number, right? Like there's just one scene went on for so many chapters and I was like, what for? What does this add? What does this add? Come on, Miss Annie Crown, what does this add? I was so frustrated reading this. Anyways, the next question is your favorite covers of the year. Ooh. What? Like, this is the hardcover. I removed the dust jacket because I really like the hardcover aspect of this design. So it says The Ballad of Archer and the Fox, and it draws upon a moment in the story where the main female character actually picks up a book called The Ballad of the Archer and the Fox. And I think that's just so magical. Like, I'm like the main female character picking up a book, you know? Like, it's so good. The hardcovers are inspired by the actual books mentioned in the story. But that is not my answer. So apart from being obsessed with those covers, I really loved the reprint of An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. I also probably butchered that. The covers are so bold. They match, look at this, like the blue and like the neon blue and like the gold and the black. Ugh, stop. And like the spines has a distinct picture where if you put it all in the same level, like you'll see it. I just think the person who designed these covers actually knew what color theory was, because these are gorgeous. Like, what? Like, they're in your face, but they're like, they're so pleasing to look at. Like, I can't. Like, look at this. What? I can't stop looking at it. I'm not an art student, but if I was, I would appreciate that a lot. So, yeah. Anyways, next question is a book you haven't stopped thinking about. This is really easy because just like everyone's mom and everyone's mom's uncle and everyone's dog's uncle, Crimson Moth by Kristen Ciccarelli, or Ciccarelli, I'm not Italian. I don't even know if that was Italian. I'm so sorry if it isn't. But this book consumed my entire waking moments and still lives in my mind rent-free. Witch and Witch Hunter. Do I need to say more? It's young adult. I think young adult or new adult, but I really like the way the plot is in this book. Like, I think apart from the romance and the characters, the plot, the betrayal, come on. Fun fact, I actually started my Bookstagram account just so that I have enough book content to apply to be an ARC reader for like the second book that comes out soon, but didn't get there. So we're on the same boat, girlies. We're on the same boat. But yeah, I really recommend this book. I remember when I finished reading this book for the first time, I got out my phone and recorded 15 minutes of me convincing my future self to reread the book. Like, tell me you're obsessed without telling me you're obsessed, you know? The next question is book you thought you'd love but didn't. Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. Next question. No, but for real though, I really thought I'd love it. Anyways, actually, I do have another answer for this question. It is Powerful by Lauren Roberts. I didn't like this as much. I think it made me realize that novellas are probably not my forte, especially if it introduces new characters in like the span of like 150 pages. This book focuses on a side character in Powerless, who I really loved and I really wanted to get to know more about. So it follows Adina. And I think the fact that you because I read Powerless first, right? Like, logically. So I kind of knew what was going to happen to her character, and when I picked up this book, so it kind of took away that aspect of it. I wish we didn't find out about the things we found out about in Powerless, just so that this is more impactful. But it kind of just felt flat to me. Like, the story felt a bit flat. Felt rushed because of the new character introduced. The timing was just, I don't know. It was like, this is supposed to be Grumpy Sunshine, but it kind of felt like he was grumpy for the sake of being grumpy, and that doesn't sit right with me. I don't know, I just thought I'd love it because I really like the character in Powerless. Next question. What is a book you read this year that you would reread? So, apart from all the books that I've mentioned. So throughout the year, I kind of went through Emily Henry's backlog. I read Happy Place, I read Beach Read, I read Book Lovers, and a lot of those books I actually would reread again, especially Happy Place. I think Happy Place is my favorite. So if my Emily Henry tier ranking goes, it would be Happy Place, Beach Read, Book Lovers, and People We Meet on Vacation. Like that is probably my tier ranking, but I haven't read Funny Story yet, so that still has to go into the list. But I would reread a lot of her books. I'd also reread Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I think this is one of the best books I've read in terms of contemporary romance and mental health rep. I just think it's so good. Jacob Maddox is one of my top book boyfriends. I think he was so well written. I think the love in this, the yearning, the pining. Like I know this book is like the miscommunication trope on steroids, but like I ate it up, and I would eat it up every time. And so I'd love to reread her book. I'd reread this right now actually, but I'm going through Shatter Me series. Next question. Goodreads 2024 reading goal reflection and a reading goal for 2025. So this year, my reading goal was 70, and I ended up reading 78. And I think that's a pretty good feat, considering I read half a self-help book in 2020, right? So, I feel like I read really quickly this year. That might just be because of me and my hyperfixation, but I feel like I'm gonna lower my reading goal next year to 50 or 60, just cause I feel like I start a book as quickly as I finish them, which is pretty bad. It's kind of similar to when you like binge a show. I feel like it's very, very consumerism, like fast-paced consumerism for me. I'm not enjoying and really settling and like really thinking about a book after I finish it before I start the next one. And I feel like that's one of my goals for next year as well, is to just slow down my reading, which is also why I have like a really big physical TBR. When I read on my Kindle, I read really fast. Like I'm like, next page, next page, next page. And little do I know, it's like the acknowledgement sections. And I'm like, since when? Since when? I feel like reading physically would really help me slow down my reading. Also, it allows me to annotate and highlight my books. So I think that's one of my goals next year. So lower reading goal and prioritizing physical reads. The next question is book you wish you got to this year. There's a lot on this list, I'm not gonna lie to you, but there is one series that has put me in a lot of people's hit list because I haven't read it yet. And it is The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. But yeah, so The Raven Cycle, and I think the first book is The Raven Boys. I don't have the physical copy. Everyone whose book opinions I trust has loved this series and would die on the hill for them. And I just want to get on that. I hate that I added this series in June to my TBR. Like this has been in my TBR for the past 6 months and I have not started it. I haven't even read the first book. It made me disappointed. I told my friend, like I give you permission. If my next year reading wrap up comes out and I haven't read The Raven Boys or I haven't read the Raven Cycle, I give you permission to punch me in the face. Nicely. Maybe. It's actually embarrassing how long this book has been on my TBR, or this series has been on my TBR. Also the Six of Crows, also the duology. Like, can I even call myself a reader if I haven't read The Six Crows? My sincerest apologies to everyone that recommended me The Raven Cycle ages ago, and I still haven't gotten to it. But I really want to read it, and is high on my January TBR. And the last question is, what will you prioritize in your 2025 reading year? As you can see from my answers, majority of the books that I mentioned are young adult, romance, fantasy, contemporary. And I think one of my reading goals for 2025 is to read more genres. Like I want to read more women's fiction, I want to read more literary fiction, historical fiction, maybe some crime, maybe some thriller, no horror because I don't think I'll be able to sleep at night. Yeah, just exploring more genres. So I do want to try and venture out of my genres. I feel like this year for me as a first year reader was more of like discovering what I like and my taste and what my preferences are in terms of my comfort genres. I just also really wanted to read the popular reads. I think that this year was a year of learning and discovery, and next year can be more exploring different genres. So if you have any recommendations in other genres that are not young adult romance and fantasy, let me know. I'm always open to book recommendations, even though my TBR is like 100 books long. But wait, I will get them. I will get to them. Thank you for sticking around to the end. I don't know how to end my videos. Like, if you've gotten this far, wow, look at us. We're friends now. Stick around, subscribe, like, do all the YouTube stuff. My Bookstagram if you want to follow me there, and my Goodreads if you want to read my book reviews. Yeah. Anyways, I hope you have a cold pillow today. I hope your tea comes out at a good temperature. I hope you don't miss your public transport and your public transport comes on time. Like, all the good stuff. And I shall see you in my next video. Yeah, I think that's an outro. Okay, bye!